Spencer.
Billy Man.
Many
Man,
men, click, click, many, man. Click, click, which that far beater. I don't cry no more.
I actually remember at one point, man, I used to think Phil Spencer was actually like a pretty cool dude, man. I never really had much of an issue with him like that. Um, it wasn't until like kind of recently that I started having, like within the last like four years or so, I've been having like an issue with the dude, man.
Right. Because you was a baby.
Yeah.
Because you was a baby.
Well, it was just that when I guess it was just the nature of my history with Xbox, man, that kind of pushed me down that pathway. Because it was like when I told you before, man, you know, I was always kind of like around Xbox, but Xbox was never like my main thing, you know. So I played the original one with my friends and I wasn't that crazy into it. The 360, my brother had it, and obviously I was around him all the time, so I had a chance to play it. And that's kind of when I like started to get into it, right? But I never actually owned it for myself. So when the Xbox One came out, that was the first Xbox that I personally owned for myself, you know. And when at first when it came out, like I was all about it, you know what I mean? Because they had Halo that came in and all this other stuff, right? And it was fine for like the first like 2 years that I had it. And then after that, it was like that's when Microsoft started like implementing things like Game Pass and PC and all this other stuff, right? And that's when I kind of stepped away from it, man, because I was like, I started noticing that the game started changing and the quality and everything was just different. I was like, I don't know about this one, man. You know, and what really got me was when they canceled fucking Scalebound, and that shit hurt that shit hurt me so bad, dude. I can't even tell you.
Fucking ugly
That was like
game.
Yo, man, I was like so hyped for that shit when they first showed it, man. Yo, guys, whoever's in here, man, it's just gonna be me and Illicit, man. I'm not gonna be in here too long, so we're just gonna kind of keep this a closed show and just kind of talk about what we wanted to talk about and get the fuck out of here, man.
Look of it.
But yeah. But what I'm gonna do is I actually am gonna have a fucking video coming out probably within the next like day or so, probably tomorrow, talking about all this shit. But anyway, is there anything you want to say, man, before I get into anything?
Nope, I'm letting you set the stage, bro.
All right, so as you guys already know, man, the interview for Phil Spencer came out, was released today, man, and there was a lot of stuff that I kind of wanted to touch because it's crazy, bro. It was crazy because he literally confirmed without fail, right?
Without fail.
All of the yeah, I know, without fail, right? All of the shit that not only myself, right, but Illicit and a lot of other people, what we've been saying for a long fucking time, man. And I wrote it all down so I don't fucking ramble on here, but it's just a lot, and it was a lot to unpack, and I figured I was gonna make a video, but I'm here doing the space right now. But yeah. So I guess I'll start off with this, right? The big thing that everybody's talking about is the fact that Phil Spencer basically conceded to Nintendo and to PlayStation. And I don't want to put words in his mouth, and I don't want to, try to take it out of context, man. But basically what he was saying was that at this point, no matter what they do, essentially, right, they're not going to be able to out-console Sony and Nintendo, right? And in the midst of saying that, he mentioned that AAA games are not really going to help them to reach that goal. And I kind of have something to say about that because to a degree, I think he's right. And on the other side, I think he's kind of wrong, right? On the side that I think he's wrong is that I absolutely disagree with him that great games wouldn't sell a console, right? anybody and their mother, anybody who knows about any of this shit, right, knows that a good game will sell a fucking console. You know what I'm saying? I just don't think that that is their MO. They're not trying to sell consoles or whatever the case is, right? But what I do think he's right about is that it wouldn't help them that much in the situation that they're in currently, because they've dug themselves so deep into a fucking hole. That it's like, what are you gonna do, man? At this point, you're battling all of your competition, right? Obviously Sony and obviously Nintendo and all of the great shit that they've been consistently coming out with. So if Microsoft, right, if they were to try to come back and compete with that, right, not only do they have to come out with content, right, that matches or is in the same vicinity in terms of quality, right, the games that their competition has, they have to match their fucking consistency as well, right? And we know that's been an issue for them. And Phil Spencer, you know, he touched on a couple of different things, like how they lost a key generation, which is the Xbox One generation, because that was the time where Sony and Nintendo kind of like really took off with their IPs, and Microsoft kind of, you know, went to the back, and they didn't get it. They didn't get their content out the way that they needed to. Let me see. Let me check my notes here so I don't I don't want to ramble on too much. So let me see. Yeah, one thing that I think, right, when it comes to, what else I think? Oh, okay. So, another thing too, right, is because a lot of people will say that Microsoft is not going into the console business. That's what their MO is, right? And this is what I think you'll hear a lot of the people who will try to defend this and spin this, right? Is that of course they're not going into console. This is something they're building an ecosystem, PC and stuff like that, you know? And I'm like, well, first of all, right, I don't understand how, as an Xbox fan, somebody as a fan of the platform, and even in this interview alone, right, and I wrote this down just to make sure I remembered, right, he confirmed that the majority of the people, right, who engage are on the Xbox, the console, right? The people who spend the most money in the ecosystem, they're on the Xbox, right? But seemingly their goals are not aligned with the console. At least that's not what their actions say, right? And you have people who will try to defend this shit and talk about how, oh, it's an ecosystem and they're expanding and all that. Okay, fine, cool, right? But how can you in the same breath talk Microsoft is expanding and all this type of shit, right? And they're doing all of these things antithetical to the console, and still be an apt fan of the damn platform. That's what I don't understand, right? And even with all that shit, man, I still even think it's going to be hard for them to compete even in that way, man, because I think Sony specifically, not so much Nintendo, I think Sony is going to be bolstering their cloud and all this other shit going down the line as well. So it's just an uphill battle, man, all around, from games to services to all this cloud shit that they want to do, and PC and all this bullshit that they're trying to do, right? Hey, you, man, me and Alyssa here, man, we're just going to do a closed show today, man. We just want to kind of get our shit out and get out of here, man. We're not going to be in here too long. So, yeah, we're not really going to be accepting any requests right now. But I feel you, man. It's all good. But that's what I wanted to say about that, right? So that kind of leads me into the next thing, right? Which is their management, right? Because we already know that they've been having fucking issues, right, managing their shit, and we haven't really been able to explicitly confirm a lot of this shit, which is why you had so many people, right, kind of combat it for so long. But I think what Phil Spencer said in this interview was pretty telling as to, like, that's actually the case. And one of the things that me and especially Alyssa here, right, we're talking about was the fact that Microsoft had a lack of direction, right, of what they wanted to do. They had a lack of creative direction, I should say. They had a lack of involvement. The whole hands-off thing, right, we even talked about this shit, how this shit doesn't work, right? It really doesn't. Like on one side, cool, you know, it sucks to be micromanaging your fucking studios, but on the other end, you can't be too hands off where you absolutely add no creative direction to your studio, right? And Phil Spencer, he didn't explicitly say it that way. What he said, right, was that came to Red because that's the one that's been.
You're breaking up.
Yo, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. So it was specifically around Redfall, right? Because that's the one that's been in the media the most recently. And everybody's been dogging that shit and, you know, whatever. It came out the way that it came out. And he was basically talking about how he apologized, which is what he fucking does all the time anyway. You know, oh, I'm sorry, we heard you. We're going to do better, whatever, right? Same shit, different day, right? But that's what he went into. And he talked about how one of the things that he could have improved on, right, was being more hands-on with the actual studio. Now, I thought that was interesting because, like I said, that's something that is not explicitly explained when they talk about the the goings with their studios and stuff like that, man. And to me, it doesn't make any fucking sense, man, because it's like, yo, after doing this shit for so long, bro, like, remember, Microsoft has been in the game for fucking 20 years, dude. 20 fucking years. And you mean to tell me, right, after all of this time, you have not come up with a system that fucking works? You know what I mean? And I get it, right? You want to go down a different path. You have to do your own thing, man. But dude, at some point, you have to learn, right, from your mistakes, and you have to move forward and shit like that, man. When Phil Spencer came out and he was like, yo, we didn't really have like a plan set in place for launching Redfall at 60 frames per second, and we should have had that shit like started a year ago. I rolled my eyes, bro. I'm like, dude, at this point, right, it's either fucking incompetence or they're doing this shit on purpose. You know what I mean? Or maybe it's a mixture of both. I don't fucking know. But what I know is that the shit isn't working, and they need to get their shit right. And I think people are really at this point, right? Especially the fans, right? The hardcore fans are really starting to realize like how bad their management really has been. And Phil Spencer, honestly, to be honest with you, man, I don't even think he really did that much to kind of like sway people in believing that it was not the case. You know what I mean? Because like I said, he got in front of the camera and he sang the same fucking sad little song, right? About how, you know, we need to do better. I need to learn. It's all on me. It's my fault. Whatever. Don't blame the devs and their creative vision and all this other bullshit. And I'm like, yeah, you know. But anyway, I wanted to highlight it because it's something that I've been saying for a while, and it's something that, like, you know, Alyssa here said it as well a lot too as well. But one of the other things that he touched on, right, that I thought was interesting is the fact that now that they're specifically in the situation that they're in, right, they don't have that many games, their fan base, they're basically, at this point, they're fucking crying for help, bro. It's like crazy, man. You know, and you know it's bad when you have your hardcore fans doing that shit. But at this point, their strategy has seemed to be, right, where instead of spending the time cooking, right, making the games that they need to make or whatever the case is, right, they're just going to go out and buy the shit. And that's what happened with this whole thing with Activision and this whole thing with Bethesda. And that's one of the things, like, why people were so...
Can I say something really quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
I only say that because, like, I feel like I'm losing you.
How so?
I'm trying to understand, like, the actual... Here's the thing, right? What if, like, okay, so there's some points. You have it all layered, right?
Yeah,
but
I'm literally...
There's some things that I feel like you could touch on about how what he actually said in his this fucking meeting, like, specifically, that is egregious.
Which part of it did you want to kind of revisit?
So for me, I think that there was a couple of things that let me see here. I'm sorry. I don't know if this shit is working here. There's a couple of things that I feel like he, like Phil Spencer is actually Hold on for a minute. Okay, my bad. Okay, it's good. It's good. It's good. Can you hear me? Y'all can hear me?
Yeah. I can hear you.
All right, cool. So, do you have a list of the things that Phil Spencer said?
Well,
that was egregious, and I feel like maybe you need to tackle the things that he said, and then kind of cross-reference it with, what you've been saying the whole time.
Okay, which part?
That's why I'm asking you. Like, what are the things that he said that made you want to talk about it?
Well, I mean, what you mean, like with the creative direction and all that shit?
Because, let me give you an example. So basically, what Phil Spencer said is that so the egregious things is what did he say? That's what I'm saying. I don't have it all there, so I didn't watch it. You watched it. What were the things that he was saying that was like, what the fuck, Phil? Like, what were the things that he was?
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
Okay, so it wasn't really so much a thing of like, what the fuck, Phil. It was more like he kind of, while explaining to everybody, right, why, he needs to do better and all of this stuff, and they were asking him all the questions. He was just kind of telling people how the process kind of worked behind the doors, and so on and so forth. And in him doing that, he kind of touched on a couple of things that I thought were interesting, because
that's what I'm saying. Those things that you think that's interesting, you have a list of those.
Yes.
I haven't heard the list of the things as you were going on. That's what I'm saying. It was more of like an overall, like, what is he doing? But like, that's maybe the list. That's what I'm looking for.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I can go over the list really quick. Basically,
I feel like we should tackle the list as it go along. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I've been kind of going down the list. I guess I just didn't tell you exactly what each one was. So I'll tell you. Like, the first thing was creative direction and bad management, right? The fact that they've had a lack of kind of vision for what they want, a lack of management, and a lack of creative direction, especially due to the fact that they're so hands off, right, with their studio.
So, and that's what I want to talk about. I'm going to stop. I want to focus on this part. I don't think that they were hands off at all. I think they were all hands on. They were all the way hands on. Totally fucking hands on. We had a conversation about if it was Game Pass that was creating this issue. You know what I mean? Like, them kind of having to make it into bite-sized games, or them telling them, can't do it this way. We already got a sample of Redfall. Some of the developers, was it Redfall? Yeah, I think it was. Where once they were acquired, Microsoft walked in there, was like, excuse me, no. Axe this, whatever you were doing, to cut that shit completely off, right? And you're only going to focus on the PC and Xbox and Game Pass. So that was already management that was intervening. You mentioned something earlier while you was playing Redfall. You said that the game didn't feel it's not complete. You feel like they were. Would you say the development was interrupted or something? How do you say it?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think what happened with that game was the game just pretty much isn't finished for the most part, and I believe that whatever happened, it was the development cycle was interrupted. I think what we're looking at with Redfall is pretty much half of the game that we were supposed to get.
That's the thing. That's the thing, and I think that that's absolutely right. Game Pass definitely has something to do with it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like they want to say that they are hands off, but that's not the case. If they were hands off, then the developers would have been able to do what they wanted to do. If they were hands off, Bungie would have created a different fucking game that wasn't Halo, and then want to leave Microsoft with the Halo franchise. It was so egregious, whatever is going on behind the scenes, that they was like, just keep the fucking shit. I don't want to do it anymore. I don't have any creative freedom.
So when I say hands off, right, it's more along the lines of like them not. It's not that they're never intervening, and it's not that they didn't give them some kind of like overall goal as to like, you know, whatever type of content that they need to make for the service or whatever the case is, right? It's more like they didn't really have any kind of creative direction that they offered to the studio. And that's what Phil Spencer kind of touched. I mean, I worded it as hands off, you know what I mean? But that's really what it is. It's more like they don't really have any creative direction that they've kind of like implemented into the actual development cycle. So it's like they give the developers, right, the freedom, so they say, right, the freedom to make essentially whatever game that they think is good for them, right? I mean, yeah, we could deduce that because a lot of the games that have come out on their service have been obviously conducive to the service, or PC or mobile-esque type games. So I mean, we like just from observation, we can kind of see like that there had to be some kind of intervention in terms of like how the games are supposed to be made, whatever the case is. But Phil Spencer talked about in the interview like how he felt like he should have been, or them, I guess, as a company should have been more involved with the actual development cycle, right? So my takeaway from that
sounds like he's blaming them. That he's taking the blame off of themselves, saying that they didn't have anything to do with the quality. You know what I mean? And I feel like they did.
What do you mean?
I feel like they had all to do with, like, the reason why it came out to the way that it was is clearly that they had something to do with the reason why it's fucked up. He's saying he's trying to take the heat off of him by saying that I wish we weren't so hands off. Otherwise, if we were to implement management, it wouldn't have turned out that way. But basically, it's their fault that the game is fucked up. Because whatever management that they had in there, this is what they chose to do. And that's not true. He's blaming it on them. He's blaming that shit on them when they were directed to do that. It doesn't make sense that, Arcane Studios had a decent track record, right? And then all of a sudden, when they were purchased, that goes for all of them too, all of the developers, except for the Forza ones. But they don't release their games that often. You know what I'm saying? Enough. And when they do release the game, even with the fucking, was it Forza 7? It was fucking microtransactioned out of nowhere. Someone's telling them to do it.
So one thing that he mentioned that was interesting, right, in regards to that, is the fact that the acquisition process, because he touched on the fact that he touched on when they went through that whole process is something, because he was talking about like things that they could have done better or whatever the case, right? That was the umbrella of the conversation, right? What they could do better, so on and so forth. And in that conversation, they talked about, you know, the fact that during their acquisition process, they needed to get better at, you know, intervening with these studios that they just got in contact with, right? Which is obviously a problem that had caused the game to go in the direction that it did, clearly, you know, because they didn't have a roadmap for developing the one of the most important things that the fucking game didn't have, which is the 60 frames per second. That's what he touched on, right? They didn't have just key shit in the game that needed to be there, and whatever vision that they had, they didn't reach it. You know, overall. But it's like I said, it's just an example, right, of how them like not intervening is a fucking problem. You know what I mean? And their management is a problem, and it's just the same shit that we've talked about before. You know what I mean?
I mean, I know what you're saying. I can't give that shit to him. I'm not going to give it to him because it's fucking baloney. I wasn't born yesterday. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to this shit, they knew exactly what the fuck they were doing with this game. I think, like you said, it was interrupted not only to stop PlayStation from receiving it, to try to take away, you know, that momentum, but also like the direction that the studio may have been going, they told them to stop. No one gives a fuck about single player games. No one cares about single player games. Dudes, they want co-op. These are the statistics. This is what I want you to do. Repurpose this fucking idea of yours and make the shit work. It doesn't make sense that the game was When did we first hear about Redfall?
Oh man, it was probably what, like a year and a half ago or some shit.
So
Yeah, because it missed the date for last year, which we already knew that shit wasn't gonna hit it because they didn't have any information for it.
nah, I don't believe.
But yeah, it was about half ago.
No, I don't believe that shit. Fuck that shit. No, I think it's bullshit.
Yeah,
I
mean, I get it. You know, to me, that I also believe that obviously that was part of it. You know what I mean? Just from observing the other type of games that they've had, of course, there was some sense of like, this game needs to be conducive to our model. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how that conversation went. That is just pure speculation based off of what we've kind of seen and the patterns that we were able to discern based off of the actions that they've done. You know, in this particular case, I'm just kind of going off of what he's saying. You know what I mean? Not that we can't speculate about it, but just going off of what was said, essentially. You know. But anyway, that was my thing. You know, I just wanted to kind of highlight just the fact that they suck at managing shit. You know what I mean? Whether they intervened in some way or they didn't, to me, it's all the fucking same because it's like, you still fucking suck at managing because the game still turned out ass, you know, and you're the one who was responsible and you were the one who was at the helm, right, supposedly, for helping these studios and directing these studios, and clearly that didn't happen the way that it needed to. But is there anything else that you wanted to, because that, I mean, that's kind of all I wanted to touch on with that particular topic.
Yeah, you can move on to the next one.
So you were asking about the list that I kind of have here, which I touched on the other one already, about Microsoft basically conceding to PlayStation and Nintendo. We already know that this whole thing about games being great games and all that type of shit, of course it'll sell your console. We know that shit. You know what I mean? But Microsoft has dug themselves so deep into a hole where it's like, at this point, even if you do make like a couple of great games, it's not going to dig you out, man, because you're so deep into this fucking, you know, ditch that you've dug for yourself, this grave, right? Every other competitor, right, has had the opportunity to make shit and make good shit. And now in order to beat that, nigga, you gotta fucking be consistent and better. You know what I mean? So, and I think at this point, right, it's just a foregone conclusion, man. I just don't think that they have either the I don't want to say the talent, but I just don't think that I don't think that they have the drive, right, to want to push to try to overcome that kind of challenge. But I think it's bullshit, man, for real. Like, to try to make it seem like that great games won't sell your console. That's bullshit. We know that's bullshit because that's obviously not true. The other thing that I wanted to touch on here, right, is something that I hear fans talk about a lot, which is Microsoft could just buy shit, right? And I thought this was interesting because in the interview, right, I'm gonna just kind of paraphrase what he said. He basically said that Sony and Nintendo, right, they are, and like I said, I'm just kind of paraphrasing here. They're like discreetly focused, right, on making deals that makes it hard for Xbox. That's roughly what he said, right? And I found that particularly interesting because you always hear a lot of people talk about like, oh, well, Microsoft, like, for example, with this whole ABK shit, right? Microsoft could just take all their fucking money and just go buy a bunch of exclusives and all this type of shit, right?
And that they're a $2 trillion company.
Yeah, $2 trillion company, and they're going to take over, and, you know, and this is, I bring it up because this is something that we have talked about as well, right? Clearly, that's not the case. You know what I'm saying? Because Sony and Nintendo, they have such a strong influence in the fucking industry at this point, right? That it's not always about, like, obviously the amount of money that you can spend to get whatever it is that you need, an exclusive or a deal or some shit like that, right? It also comes into play, like, for example, Microsoft's platform, it's not a viable platform for a lot of games. You know what I mean? So there's no amount of money that they can give certain people, right, to make their fucking game exclusive to their platform, because they're never going to see that shit back. I mean, think about how many people are in their ecosystem. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't think that there are a lot of developers that see the value, right, in trying to put their game onto a platform that they know is declining, or at the very least,
not for nothing.
That they know.
Also, like even if they give them like $2 billion to make the game, right? Even if you do that, you run across the issue of I'm not going to make my residuals either. You know what I mean?
Yep. And on top of that, right? And this is another thing that I think a lot of people don't even consider when it comes to like how they more than likely negotiate these deals, right? Is the fact that Microsoft is developing their games for multiple different SKUs, right? So you have the S, the X, and then you also, obviously, you have the PC, right? Now, think about that. Think about if you were put in there in a developer's shoes, right? You have a platform that isn't doing very well, whether it's declining or at the very least is not growing. And now you have to do extra work to get your game to run on 3 different platforms for this developer. I mean, for this publisher, I'm sorry. Right? That does not sound like an attractive proposition. You know what I mean? And that's one of the reasons why I think we're seeing a lot of situations now where games are just not even going on to Xbox at all, period. Like games are just skipping the platform altogether. You know what I mean? Because like I said, it's the way that they have their model structured. Ultimately, that's what I believe. And how they have everything set up in terms of their console ecosystem. I honestly believe that inadvertently, Microsoft is literally pushing exclusive content to other platforms like Sony and Nintendo. You know, so when people, back to what I was saying, when people come in and they say things like, well, Microsoft is just going to take all of this money and start buying exclusives, I'm like, I don't think it's that simple, man. I really don't. Because you have to think about what it is that Microsoft can actually offer to these individuals other than a check. I mean, cool, $1 billion, but $1 billion isn't gonna, isn't gonna make your game sell. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day,
right?
And I just think I think it's a pipe dream. But I bring it up because it's something that we've talked about before, and I think Phil Spencer, like I said, with all of these other things, basically during this conversation, confirmed that, right? So the other thing, this is the one that got me, right? So this is the other thing on my list. Phil Spencer literally admitting to being dishonest, right? About their game demonstrations. Now, I say dishonest specifically because in some of these situations, I don't think that he necessarily lied, right? So what he said was, to preface this particular point, is that they need to get better and transparent, I think is the word that he used. They need to be more transparent about showing players, right, the games that would be representative of the console. And think about that, right? When you hear the word transparent, it sounds positive, right? It sounds like you're trying to, whatever it is that you're saying is in the best interest of the individual or the consumer, right? But basically what he's saying is that, bro, we lied to you, essentially, or we were being dishonest to you about showing you this game running at 60 frames per second, because really what we weren't showing you the console version, we were showing you the PC version. And I just think that's fucking crazy, bro, because I mean, I know for a fact that like me and you have talked about this shit ad nauseum. I mean, everybody, even like Thrash, like a lot of people have pointed out, right, during some of these gameplay demonstrations and shit, right? They never had, like, for example, it was captured on the Xbox Series X, so on and so forth. A lot of times they didn't even have it captured on the PC, and I think that's what happened with Redfall, because a lot of people were under the impression, right, that the game was going to launch with 60 frames per second, but nobody knew that the game was running on the PC. Nobody. And the only people who knew didn't fucking talk about that shit. Cole Eastwood and, Maddie Plays and all these other guys who supposedly went and previewed the games and shit, they never told you about any of this stuff. And Microsoft obviously didn't. I just find it crazy that this dude literally went on an interview and told you that he lied to you, bro. I mean, do you have anything to say about that, man? Because I think that's fucking crazy.
Um, people will sit there and they won't admit that they are wrong at all. Like they've been wrong. They won't admit to it. They won't. They refuse to admit to it. And he's been doing wild shit for a long time, man. He's been lying a lot for a long time. He's been telling a lot of these guys what they want in general for a long time. You know what I mean? And so, what do I got to say about it? I mean, this is per the course. This is shit that they were going to. This was already a situation. This was one of those situations where it was just like he can literally tell you shit and you believe him. That's the crazy shit. You just tell him, and he's so brazen with it. He doesn't care what the fuck it looks like. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. It just doesn't like it's because I don't even know. Like, I usually when people believe people, they usually have a track record of doing something good and not just saying that you're doing something good. You know what I mean? And you get their trust. But we're in the fucked up time, man, where people don't even need proof. You just need to say something emotional, and then you believe it. It's just the fucking craziest thing. Yeah, he's basically telling you, hey, you know what I mean? We fucked up by being caught, and so like in the future, we're not going to get caught. So
Pretty much.
And it's we're like gonna do it better than that.
People wonder like why we kind of like question a lot of stuff that they do and they say, because that's one thing about Microsoft just in general, and this is kind of going off a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. They what they do is they give you just enough information, right? To have their fans go out and disseminate all of the narratives and shit like that, right? But they don't give you enough to dispel it. They don't give you enough to refute it because you can't. You know what I mean? It's like and like I said, this is kind of going off a little bit, but it's like when they say, "Oh, we had 20 million players." You know what I mean? It's like, well, okay, cool. How many people are concurrent? Same thing with Game Pass. You know what I mean? Oh, we have 25 million. There's a reason why they haven't updated those numbers. I say that shit, right? Because it just leads you to believe, right, that this is something that they do often. You know what I mean? They well, basically what it is, it's an omission effect. And that's why I say it's dishonest, because and not necessarily a lie, because you're not specifically lying to somebody, but what you're doing is you're omitting factual information to make the whatever perceived image or whatever it is that you're trying to say appear a certain way. You know what I mean? And I think that's why they've been able to escape by as long as they have, man, because they haven't given a lot of people enough information to refute the shit that they have. All it is right, on one side you have the fans running off saying, "Oh, we got 25 million people in Game Pass," and then you have the other people, right, like us, who don't have enough information, and we're questioning it. We're like, well, hold on. But what about this? Okay, you gave us revenue, but what about profit? So, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. And it paints this picture where it seems like they're doing better than what they are. But when you start seeing that them fucking financials come in, goddamn less than the fucking 30% decline, bro. Like, come on, man. You know what I mean?
Clearly something happened. You know what I mean? And it's crazy. It's crazy how shit like this is allowed. You know what I mean? In the gaming space where people could just, I don't know. I look at people and look, somebody could easily tell us just as easily, "No, mind your fucking business. Why do you care?" Right? Somebody could easily tell you that. So I guess that's my question to you. Why do you even care?
Why do you even care? You could have just walked away. Nah, honestly, man, because people might not believe me when I say this shit, man, but I've actually spent a lot of time and money in the Xbox ecosystem, or at the very least, the console. You know what I mean? because this whole ecosystem shit started like recently. You know what I mean? So I've invested into the console a lot, man, and it's like it's perplexing when you have so many people tell you that the brand is doing so well, right? Especially when you know back in the day they have done so much better, man. They've made much better games.
So much better.
You know what I mean?
So much smarter.
Yeah, I mean, if you compare the 360 to the Xbox One and the Series X, or even fucking the Xbox One to the Series X, right? There's a clear difference, like in the type of games and the quality of games that they've made in comparison. You know what I mean? So to me, it's annoying, right? When you have people who come in and they say, oh, Xbox is doing great and Xbox is the best that it's ever been. And it's like, Microsoft doesn't give you enough information to like refute this shit, but they give you enough, right? They give their fans enough to run away with the narrative that Xbox is really doing great, but they're not. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, we see that shit. We see it. We're like, yo, how about this? Like, why haven't you updated your Game Pass like numbers in over a year? It's like, but people don't want to focus on that shit, you know? It's like, let's not look into the past. The past is the past. I mean, they'll reveal the numbers when they feel like it. I'm like, no. Their pattern has been, they have updated their fucking shit like after a certain amount of time, and this is not what they're breaking that pattern at this point. You know, which tells me that there's a fucking problem. And it's not just that, it's everything that they do. You know what I'm saying? Every fucking thing. It's like there a lot of double talk, a lot of fact omissions, you know, and a lot of like tailoring the image and the narrative to make it seem like they're doing better than what they are. And that's what irritates me, man. Because believe it or not, man, I actually do like my Xbox, man. I mean, a lot of people might not believe that. I want that shit to be better. You know what I'm saying? And it's never going to be better if your fucking fans are always like dick riding your anything you do or say, right? To make it seem like you are better than what you are, you know? And that's why I care, because shit pisses me off, like low key. You know what I mean? But I had two other things I wanted to touch on, man, before I kind of switch it over to you. Right. So the next thing I'm gonna do, right, is talk about this whole AAA thing, because Microsoft talked about how basically they're not gonna follow Sony and Nintendo. You know, they said that they're gonna basically go their own way. And a lot of fans seemingly want Microsoft to be, and this is kind of how he worded it, like I said, paraphrasing, want Microsoft to be a better green version than the blue guys, right? Now, to me, that translates to they're not going to be focusing on AAA games, right? And the reason why I came to that conclusion is because he also worded their studios being, having projects, a wide variety of projects, you know, kind of like what we've been seeing so far. And clearly, if anybody's paid attention, we can tell that they haven't had very many AAA games, right? And if that's the path that they're going to go, you know, Phil Spencer definitely confirmed it here, that they're not trying to follow the same path as Sony and Nintendo. You know, they want to carve their own path, and that, like I said, kind of goes back into what we were saying before. They basically threw in the fucking towel, man. You know, they're like, yo, we can't compete with you guys, man. Like, we're too far gone at this point, right? To try to compete in the same market that you are, because we're so far behind and you guys are way too far ahead. So this whole thing about like focusing on AAA and all this shit, that's just not what they're gonna do, you know. And I think anybody who expects that, I think you're gonna be disappointed, because one, that's not what they've done. And two, they literally fucking told you that shit, as a matter of fact. Because this isn't the first time that they mentioned it, right? A couple of years ago, Microsoft came, I forgot who it was. I think it was Matt Booty, actually. Matt Booty came in and he told everybody that what they wanted to focus on was getting a bunch of small studios and having those small studios create AA games, right? That was going to be the main focus. And it makes sense when you think about like the actual direction of their service and Game Pass and all that shit, right? Because at the end of the day, you know, there's only but so many games that you could dump $100-200 million into, right? Before you start hemorrhaging, you know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense. You know, so obviously they kind of have to, and that's probably why you hear Satya say that type of shit all the time, where it's like, oh, you know, less with more. You know what I mean? Or less is more, however he fucking
That
says it,
motherfucker
right?
was like, let us compete.
Let us compete. Yeah, because it's like, I mean, think about it, right? Cheap games, right? Cheap games that you can get, you could throw into the service, and engagement, user engagement, because that's one of the metrics that they go by nowadays, right? Um, and I think, like I said, Phil Spencer basically also further confirmed this, which is something, like I said, we've talked about ad nauseum. You know what I mean? But that was pretty much what I wanted to say about that shit. The last thing I wanted to touch on with this interview was actually a positive thing, and it's not gonna be too much, but I didn't want to just leave it off all on a negative note. So Phil Spencer, he also touched on how at their at their showcase coming up in like the next month or whatever, they're going to be touching on and giving updates for games that we've been waiting for a long time. Games like Hellblade and Avowed, and I don't think they mentioned Everwild, but these are games that, if you guys don't know, have been announced for like more than like a few years. It's been a long ass time before we've heard anything about these games. So at this point, I think people are just clamoring for any kind of information, man. But he basically casually mentioned like, oh, you know, we're gonna have an update on some of the games that you guys know about, Hellblade, Avowed, or blah 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 blah, right? So for anybody who is looking forward to that stuff, man, I know for me personally, although I haven't been that much into the Xbox ecosystem much recently, man, one of the games that I definitely can tell you that I'm looking forward to is Hellblade, because I've always been a fan of Ninja Theory. I've been a fan for a long ass time. You know what I mean? So, and that's not going to change just because, you know, Microsoft acquired them. So personally, I can't wait to play that. And that's what I'm looking forward to. But yeah, anybody who's looking forward to that shit, man, it looks like they're going to be updating some stuff with that. But that's pretty much what I wanted to touch on with regards to this interview, man. You can go ahead and touch on your whole Nintendo shit. I know you're gonna blast everybody with that bullshit.
No. Because like, here's the thing, right? It's not necessarily about Nintendo, right? So, people always are super disingenuous with the whole Nintendo thing, right? Or a whole quality thing. So they typically like the gatekeep other people that are like basically onlookers. You know what I mean? They want to gatekeep onlookers. Why do you even, once again, why do you even care about what I like? Why are you trying to be the arbiter of my shit? You know what I'm saying? Who are you to tell me that I'm just allowing them to do whatever they want to do, and I'm just lapping up anything that they throw out there? You don't even have a fucking Switch. Why do you even care, right? You would think that I've insulted their mother all because I asked. What did I ask? I had a poll on my Twitter, and I asked. I said, shouldn't you guys? I mean, think about it, right? Logistically, Nintendo makes a lot of fucking money in their gaming space. Part of the reason why they make a lot of money is because of the investment per game. They don't have to worry about voice actors. They don't have to worry about crazy graphics. They don't have to worry about anything bleeding edge or anything at all like that. And so their games are not that expensive to make, right? Their games are not expensive to make. And so they get a crazy fucking profit. Their console and their SKU isn't that really expensive either. So they just get a shit ton of fucking profit. So my question is, well, as a fan, just like I'm a fan of PlayStation, shouldn't you demand more? Should you really care? And you know what? The talk about it is, well, Zelda's coming out, right? Why are you suspiciously making this particular topic? If you follow me, you will understand that I say this shit a lot. A lot. This isn't the only time I say this shit. It's always a fucking Nintendo fanboy that will sit there and use PlayStation games as a rubric as to how not to make a game. Who you guys care about graphics too fucking much. You care about graphics. What about the gameplay? What about the fucking gameplay? They want to be disingenuous and use videos of games that are not even in the same fucking genre, and then say that your Nintendo, your favorite precious Nintendo game, is a better game than this other game, and they're not even the same fucking genre. That's like me expecting Devil May Cry to have RPG elements. Or look at this. You're not really upgrading. Look. Your sword doesn't really upgrade. That doesn't make. You see. When I play Final Fantasy, my shit upgrades. It works. They're not even the same fucking genre. It wouldn't even make sense to pin them fucking together. But here we are again with these fucking Zelda and Horizon fucking comparisons all the fucking time. Unprovoked. And these are the same people that will sit there and say that, oh, well, you know what? I like all games. I'm a dumbass neutral. If that's fucking the case, then why are you always pitting one game in its console over the next? I thought you had all the fucking game consoles. I thought you had these platinums. I thought your gamer score was really nice. I thought you like if you really liked all those games and you weren't biased, why are you comparing why are you comparing two things that you like? I don't fucking compare pizza over macaroni. For what?
Well, let me ask you, which one do you like, pizza or macaroni?
They're both at different days. It wouldn't make sense for me to do that.
I want to ask you a question, man. So, where did Nintendo touch you, man?
In my sphincter. So, the problem is at Nintendo, right? So here's another disingenuous argument. Is the argument, right, that you can't say anything bad about Nintendo games or my particular favorite games, but let's stick on Nintendo games. Let me put my fucking black ass, crusty ass foot on the necks of these niggas. That fucking game, the Nintendo, you can't say anything about Nintendo because you don't have a fucking Switch. Don't you realize that I'm a consumer as well? And so I am a consumer. You're supposed to fucking wow me as a creator of product. You're supposed to wow me. You're supposed to make me buy your shit. The second you put something out there as a game, as I'm a gamer, I am going to be invested in it. There's nothing disingenuous about me being invested in. There's no console wars. You know why I really get pissed off? Oh, let me actually go back with this one. Let me put my foot even further down the fucking neck. You can't tell me that I shouldn't be invested. I mean, that I can't judge something, right? Because I don't have it. Especially if I don't have it anymore. Say I get an Xbox, right? Since you were talking about Xbox. So I get an Xbox Series X. And I had it for like a year. And I realized, you know what? I don't really use it that much. I'm just going to probably return it and see how much money I get for it. Because it's like a waste of money. It's a waste of space. They're not giving me what I want, right? It's a fair assessment, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But here's these Nintendo fucking fanboys that pretend to be fucking neutrals, right? Come along and say, you can't say shit about it because you took your Switch back. What sense would it make for me to keep something I'm not going to fucking use just to appease you? If I took it the fuck back, it simply means that it wasn't worth my time. Whatever they had to fucking offer I don't want it anymore. I made him a fucking steak. There's been many times you would make a fucking mistake. I bought a fucking Sony TV and I didn't like the way it fucking looked. Guess what? The shit was up out of there. Sometimes you get hyped and you're like, oh shit, fear of missing out, and you buy something. Fucking Cyberpunk. Everybody got hyped for that shit, and then took it back. Would you expect all fucking 18 million people to keep the fucking shit? They didn't like what was there. They want their fucking money back. That's the end of the fucking discussion. So I don't understand why somebody would sit there and say that you can't talk or speak about something if you already fucking had it. If I already had it, just because you fucking like it, don't mean I do. You know how crazy that shit? You like suck dick? You suck dick? Or maybe you like suck dick. I don't like suck dick. I don't even want to think about suck dick because that's not how I fucking roll. Just because you fucking like it, I'm not mad at you. Go suck a dick. I'm not mad at you doing that. But I don't want to do it. You're fucking pissy about somebody else's fucking opinion. I can't say anything because you like it. How fucking stupid do you sound? Because you like it, I can't say anything about it. But you sure as hell can say everything about my PlayStation and the games that come along with it. It's too AAA. It's too complex. It's not fun. It's not charismatic. It doesn't have fucking rabbits and fucking bunnies. That ain't the games I want.
Not as many QTEs.
Not as many QTEs and shit like that. It just sounds stupid. It's immature. Motherfuckers are whole ass adults. Whole ass adults bitching and complaining about somebody else's fucking opinion. Oh, it sounds stupid.
Now, is this in general, or like you're just kind of?
This is, and look, I don't clout chase. So my anger for this particular subject is my anger for this particular subject. It was personal. And then another thing too, where you get these same people, right, that will come out the woodworks and say, well, you're saying these things because you're being disingenuous. That's why you're saying these things. You're saying these things because you're pissed off about it. And no, don't you realize, right? For my Twitter, I have 900 followers, and I follow them. This isn't about you. We have personal conversations offline, off Twitter. Some of these people have their fucking phone numbers. You can be included. Just because maybe we had a conversation, right? And since it's my fucking social media platform, I want to put my thought out there in the ether. Me putting a thought out saying that shouldn't you be demanding more about the console? It's not because Zelda's coming out. I don't even know when the fuck it's coming out. That has nothing to do with it. That's your insecurities, believing that I'm saying it because Zelda's coming out. That's not my fucking, I don't give a fuck. But I have conversations outside of Twitter. And so sometimes we have really deep conversations. And sometimes I'll put something out there on Twitter for somebody else to join the conversation, and like-minded people. Maybe somebody could actually think, you know what, you're right. For somebody to not criticize Nintendo specifically, right? For somebody to not criticize Nintendo and maybe a potential customer. I like Pokemon. I love it. But the latest entries of Pokemon was fucking garbage. Garbage. And because you niggas, fanboys, don't say anything about Nintendo, y'all real quiet about the shit that y'all say. Oh, yeah, it wasn't that good. I wouldn't really recommend it. I mean, I got my fun out of it. I wouldn't really recommend it. Blah, 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 right? I'm not going to recommend it. Well, that's why the fucking state is what it is. The same thing with Microsoft. The reason why Microsoft is in the state that they're in now, guess what? It has nothing to do with Microsoft. It's the fucking fans. You keep buying this fucking shit, the company is going to assume that you wanted it. And so that you don't, just real quick, and so that you don't ask for more, they won't give you fucking more. The hardware for the Switch was already old before it even came out in 2017. No, not everything is graphics, but technology allows for more possibilities. What the fuck's wrong with me wanting a better looking fucking Pokemon? One that kind of is a living, breathing fucking world, or a better fucking Zelda. What's the fuck wrong with that? Maybe I want to see a Mario game that looks like the fucking movie. What's wrong with that? Oh, just the gameplay that really matters. Just the gameplay that matters. Then fucking stick with your fucking NES, if that's the fucking case. You'll make no fucking sense because somebody wants more. They want to see more out of it. Out of those franchises.
You know what irritates me about it specifically, right? Because you already know, man. I like Nintendo shit, right? But in the same breath, right? I can't deny that there are other people who are doing other things better certain ways. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So to me, it's annoying when people don't hold the same energy, like across the board. You know what I mean? And this was one of my gripes specifically, right? Because, like, for example, with God of War, because I love God of War, Ragnarok. I thought the game was spectacular. You know what I mean? And they made a lot of changes to the game that I don't think a lot of people gave credit for. But you see a lot of people, right, say with something like Tears of the Kingdom, where they kind of, like a lot of things, refine the game. It's not like they made a lot of major changes to the game. There were refinements, you know? And all of a sudden, it's revolutionary. And that's what I have a problem with. And I think that's kind of annoying, especially to, like, I think to people like you and like me, too, because we mainly play on PlayStation, why that shit could be annoying. Because you see other games that spend so much time and money to try to make their game better and look better, play better, sound better, feel better on the fucking controller and all this shit. It give you a whole different experience, man. And then, you know, you have Nintendo, which, like I said, I think they make great games, but at the same time, you know, like it can be improved on. You know what I mean? There are things that they can work on. There are things that they can improve on. And to have people like try to make it seem like, right, that you can't criticize their platform for what they don't do, especially, and I know you touched on this, right? Especially when they have the money to do it.
That right there, that part. You make excuses for them to say that, oh, it's not about the fucking graphics. It's not about, it is about the graphics, actually. It is. I want something that looks fucking better. For starters, I have never started with astigmatism. I want something cleaner looking than that. And I want something that immersed me fully. Everybody's fucking visual fucking creatures and shit like that. So don't even fucking try to sit on your fucking high horse and talk about something that's all about graphics. You guys don't have exquisite taste in gameplay and shit like that. Yeah, it's about fucking graphics. If that was the fucking case, I would have stuck with PlayStation 1 and had fucking draw distance a couple of fucking feet before it disappears in the fucking blackness. If that's the fucking case.
Oh, I kind of wanted to touch on this. What this guy comments here, right? Oh, and by the way, guys, like I said earlier, the only reason why we're not, taking any requests right now is because we just kind of wanted to keep it pretty short, right? But I mean, I might was interested to say towards the end, but. Yeah. I said, he said, stop complaining about Nintendo Tears of the Kingdom and just buy the hardware, right? Now, to me...
wait, stop. I don't think you fucking understand. How about this? Since you hear me. Hear me fucking loud and clear. I'll do what the fuck I want to do. Why don't you stop complaining about my complaints? How about you do that? Why don't you do that? I can say what the fuck I want to say, and I can demand what the fuck I want to demand. And I'm going to continue to demand what I fucking want, because I want it. That's why I'm demanding it. I want a better looking fucking shit. I want it. That's why I'm doing it. Nintendo impressed me so I can buy your fucking hardware again. You do it. It ain't out of the realm of me fucking not buying their fucking hardware. I would buy it. Should it be necessary? Or should it show its worth? I'm not buying something that's no 720 fucking p aliasing all over the fucking place. It can barely hold fucking 30 frames a second while I'm playing games at 4K 60 or near 60. Why don't you raise your fucking standards? Why don't you do that? I'm sorry. Go on, please.
No. That's all I was going to say about it. I was just pointing it out because I know you were talking about it. He also mentioned go buy a gaming PC and a PS5. Stop complaining about the Xbox. Right. I wanted to say something about that. Right. So first of all, I actually own a gaming PC and a PS5, and I own an Xbox. Right. Now, a lot of people they kind of, I don't know why people make this argument, because it's like, why don't you just go buy a fucking PC? Like this guy said, and stop complaining about the Xbox. It's because not everybody wants to game on PC. You know what I'm saying? It's not as simple as just getting a fucking PC and just playing your shit. You know what I mean? There's a reason why consoles exist. You know what I'm saying? And it's always been that way. Consoles are easy to deal with. They're accessible. You don't have to deal with a bunch of the fucking things that like we have to deal with.
Not only that, Ken, not every game is accessible on a fucking PC. Say, since I'm going to say what the fuck I want to say, I wanted Tears of the Kingdom. There ain't no fucking Tears of the Kingdom on PC. So why would I buy a fucking PC for shit that's not there or won't ever be there? It ain't just about the fucking frames and resolution and graphics. It's the type of gameplay as well. That's what it is. It's a lot. It's a myriad of things that why people play on their particular respective hardwares. The problem that I have is that the people that try to gatekeep off of fanboyism and bias restrict the fucking potential of that IP because they don't want it for whatever reason to be better or to be greater. You can still want things and like things. Horizon doesn't have a great melee system. It's not that great. It isn't. And I tried to make it good. It doesn't work the way that I want it to work, but I can still love the fucking game and post shit. You know what I'm saying? So okay, fine. It's like you can't say nothing about the fucking games. There's a lot of things I would like in Horizon or Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo's shitty ass menu system is convoluted. It's a throw up of fucking images. But the actual gameplay is good. I want them to build that shit better. You can still want them to be better and still like the fucking game. You ever think about that? Is that a mystery? It's just so annoying and disingenuous and shit like that. Most people online can't fucking argue at all because it's all about fucking feelings. They don't even know what the fuck they're feeling. It is mad about shit that they don't like, that it made them feel uncomfortable. That's what they talk about. You're making fun of my game, but I don't have an argument. You're just a bigot. You're just biased. You're just a fanboy and don't even know how to articulate your shit. The nerve of these fucking people talk about something you can't say anything because you don't have it at that fucking moment. What if I had it and took it the fuck back because I didn't like what the fuck I played? What about then? I'm supposed to fucking sit through it? If somebody ordered me some fucking food and I didn't fucking like it, would you want me to eat it? All of it? Lick the fucking plate? Just to say that I tried it? I'm not doing that shit. I don't have to fucking keep it. If I don't fucking like it or the offerings of it, or if it's not hitting right immediately, or if it's not hitting right somewhere during the beginning phases of it, then I'm taking it the fuck back. Indiscriminately. You could be a stupid bitch and continue to have it and make yourself fucking love it. It's like me, right? Let's say I lived in an area with ugly ass fucking women, and I just pick one and settle for it. You settle for the fucking, I settle for it. So I can't complain. You guys are settling for some whack ass fucking hardware. That's why Nintendo didn't release the fucking hardware yet. That's why they're not releasing any new hardware that's better. You're not asking for it. That's why they're not making it better than what it is. You're not asking for it. And so it stays there. Yeah, go on.
it's funny because like people act like, you know, they wouldn't welcome some of these changes if, you know what I mean? Like some people wouldn't welcome a Zelda at 60 frames or, you know, higher definition or you know, more dense worlds or better physics and stuff like that. You know, even though Zelda has, you know, the physics that it has already and is good the way it is, but it's like it could be better. You know what I mean? It's like people wouldn't people it's like people act like they won't accept those type of enhancements, which wouldn't really affect the game itself. It's just enhancing the game.
It's making it better. I guarantee. And they would have ran to the fucking interwebs. Look at this. It runs at 60 frames per second. This is the best game ever. Does your game run at 60? Does your game run at 4K? That's what they would have said. But since it doesn't, now we talk about gameplay. Now we want to stick to, well, there's no other game that does this. Well, that's the reason why. That's, you know, I don't want nobody to sit there. There's no other reason for this. I'm sorry, I'm sitting there talking over you. My apologies.
This is your half of the topic, man. I mean, I think it's fun. People say like you can't talk about something, you know, or to want to demand better. You know what I mean?
And I want to say this: clip that shit. The space is recorded. Find this shit and clip it and disseminate it to y'all fucking fanboy people. Clip it. Y'all want to fucking come in there and try to cause fucking drama. Go in here and fucking clip it and send it to the fucking people to be. So I can fucking bitch about it and stay stagnant for another 5 fucking years. So you keep this old ass fucking hardware for more fucking years. They can find some way to repurpose this old ass shit. You keep buying it. Oh, we're going to put a new fucking skin on this fucking Switch. And guess what? You gobble it the fuck up. I have news for you. This is the last piece that I have to say about this shit, right? There was some talk about production values and why, what's his name again? Jim Ryan raised the prices to $70. He said that the production value cost increased, right? And that's why it's $70. So I heard on the interwebs that the reason why the games didn't like the next generation features, the next generation features, right, wasn't the cause for games being $70 fucking dollars. It was just the increase of the fucking production values. Yo, Ken, what encompasses production values?
I mean, when I think of production value, I think of like presentation. You know what I mean? So I mean, if you're going to increase your production value, obviously you're going to be using whatever modern technology that you have at your disposal to make your product better.
This person goes ahead and he says this, which was very interesting, right? He says the reason why Tears of the Kingdom is $70 because its production value is increased. So when you have a PS5 game going from PS4, what changed? Well, you need higher detail assets. You also need the game to run better, right? Let's stop there. That simply means that production values encompasses graphics and assets. Since the actual environment of the development kit changed and it can handle more, guess what? You're going to need more artists. I keep saying that. You're going to need more artists. Right? You're going to need more artists to make your shit. Which means, guess what? You're going to need to pay them fucking artists more. Every one of those artists that you hire, you're going to need to pay them too. Thus, the production values increase. For Tears of the Kingdom, right? Let's look at that, right? For Tears of the Kingdom, what increased?
Are you asking?
Do you have more artists? Is it better your assets? Do you need better assets? What increased? Hey, I'm asking, actually.
I mean, I think the changes.
You cut out.
I think the changes that they've made to the game were in the gameplay. It wasn't really so much the actual like graphical fidelity of the game.
Oh, that's interesting. So why are you paying more money if the only thing you did is change the gameplay? Not only did you change the gameplay, but you are keeping a lot of the assets from the predecessor, the predecessor.
Is that another question towards me, or is that rhetorical again?
No, that's rhetorical. I don't have any ill feelings, but you keep coming at my fucking games, and you know who you are. I'm going to keep coming after yours. Period. You don't like what I'm saying? Stop talking about my shit. You can't handle criticism. You want to play neutral games? You want to be neutral? You want to say that I like everything, but then are more hard on one platform than the other? I'm going to keep saying my shit unprovoked. And guess what? I can do that. Unsubscribe, unfollow then if you don't like it. I should have the ability to say my piece and my opinions on my own fucking social media platform. I'm not insulting anyone. I'm just proposing a question. Since you motherfuckers didn't complain about the last few entries of fucking Pokemon, well, guess what? It stays the fucking same. Nobody said anything about fucking Pokemon. You know what happened with Nintendo when they fucked up with the Wii U? They took a pay cut and they focused hardcore on the fucking games because they were losing money. This is what happens when you don't complain. This is what happens when you just let things be. The same thing that fucking happens switching gears over to Microsoft. The same thing fucking happened to them. The Xbox sat there and waited for 10 fucking years without playing anything of value. And all of a sudden, everybody's shocked Pikachu face when Redfall fucking comes out and is literally fucking broken, and they have the audacity to charge $70 fucking dollars. Ain't that a bitch? Talk about production values. Why are they charging $70 fucking dollars then? It ain't even finished.
That was half a game, man. I don't know what went wrong there, man.
I thought I gave them benefit of the doubt. I don't have it, right? I don't have an Xbox Series X either. But I thought people were just clipping fucked up glitches and then passing that off as the full on, that's what it is. It's the problem. That's what I thought. To my shock, it's like that all the time.
Yeah, because I actually played the game, man. I've been playing it for the last couple of days, and personally, man, I don't think the game is as bad as everybody's saying. But for sure, man, one thing that the game definitely is not doing well is the performance, yo. That game, it already runs at 30, and the frame rate is constantly tanking, like all the time. And it what you call it? It has glitches all the time. Like it glitches out consistently, man. I had so many videos, man, already that I kind of clipped, and I don't normally do this, man. And I'm not really like a big stickler on glitches and stuff like that, but it had so many. I'm like, yo, come on, man. Like this is kind of ridiculous at this point, man. Like you guys need to definitely demand better for this shit, man.
Yeah, and I want to say this, right, as a wrap up to this. My most favorite games, I've been very vocal about its issues. I've even told people flat out, "Oh, it looks so good. It's so good. You think I should buy it?" No. Nope. Why not? You're not gonna like it. I like it for my own reasons, and I can tolerate what's going on with the game. I know I'm making it look good, but it doesn't play like this normally. I'm telling you, you ain't gonna like it. This was about Killzone, Shadowfall. You know what I mean? Gravity Rush 2. It's a whole bunch of people that will sit there and be like, yo, this game is really good. They'll see me play it. They'll be like, yo, I think I may pick this shit up. Please don't. Please don't. Why not? Because the camera is fucked up. That's why. You're not going to get a challenge out of it because they don't give you a challenge. I like it for other reasons. I like the atmosphere. I could play a game solely because of the atmosphere and leave it like that. I like the strives. I am forgiving if your concept is bleeding edge, such as Gravity Rush, such as Horizon. I could take the fall, or I could take the problems, right, that those games have. A lot of people can't. I even loved The Getaway back on PS2. It had a horrible camera, horrible, what do you call it? Oh, you could even control the camera, by the way. Horrible frame rate, horrible animations, right? The AI was fucking broken. No day and night cycles. I took all that shit. You know why? Because I loved the way that there was a certain aura and style that I fucked with. And in my head, I started fucking auto-correcting all the issues until I liked the game. I can do that. A lot of people can't. A lot of people are too jaded. A lot of people, like when they played Forbidden West, they was expecting it to be one game, and they just could not let it go. It needed in their head to play like a certain game. And if it didn't, well, fuck you, the game sucks and it's boring. And I don't like Aloy. And she's a lesbian. That's what everybody says. So that was my fucking particular issue. It's just funny to me how people can be so biased and then claim that they're not biased. It's funny to me.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, man. To be biased, because I think we all are, but you know, to try and pawn it off as like a fact, or you're trying to be neutral. That's where it's kind of like, okay, man.
That's that right there. To pawn it off and act like you're not, like, say it with your chest. I don't fucking like PlayStation like that. I think that PlayStation games are overrated and nothing but graphics. Say it with your fucking chest. I'll play it for the story and experience. I don't like the gameplay elements because it's too fucking simplistic or too fucking sloppy. When I play my Nintendo games, they have that shit on lock. No, they don't have voice actors. No, they don't have fucking cutting ass graphics, but you know what they have? They have some tight ass fucking gameplay. And I fucks with that. And they have charm. And I'm nostalgic with that shit. I remember playing that shit when I was like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. Say that shit with your fucking chest. You know why I don't like Nintendo like that? Normally, unless they want me to fuck over, it's too fucking childish. I don't want to play no fucking little ass kid games where I'm a raccoon and shit. I don't like that. They don't make enough mature games. I don't feel it. I don't like it. Their fucking hardware is ass. I don't want no ass hardware. I don't give a fuck about it. I could take a little bit of a dip in gameplay if I get it better graphics. And I'm not afraid to admit this shit. I'm not gonna play no fucking 480i and 480p just to fucking appease people. Y'all can't admit that shit. I certainly will. The fuck am I in the game for? Buying a fucking $500 hardware and then run around talking about something that's not just about the graphics. You should have bought that fucking shit, that kit. Don't buy it. Put it back.
Put it back.
That's all I gotta say about this shit, man.
I wanted to get that other man because he was requesting to say something back a little while back. I just wanted to.
Who?
I think he left. I'm about to DM him really quick.
Huh?
If you got anything else to say, man, you can go ahead. I'm trying to DM this dude, so.
No, I'm just gonna drink the rest of my protein. I know I come off strong. That's why you DMing them. I know I come off strong. It is what it is. I'm not gonna tolerate it though. I'm not. Don't come from me, ever. If you can't fight that shit off, don't try to fucking put blanketed statements. Talk about you need to have the fucking shit. I don't need to force myself to have something I don't fucking like. I don't need to force myself for that. You can.
All right, listen.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not going to do it. What do you think he had to say? I'm curious.
I don't know. It was clearly it was something about, um, you know, like I said about complaining about Xbox and Nintendo and just playing it on the old hardware and all that stuff.
What was the
Um,
guy's name?
yeah, Fred. He was in here
Uh,
listening.
yeah, he probably didn't like what the fuck I said. Oh well, somebody unfollowed. I don't give a flying fuck. I'm trying to get rid of all you niggas that is unreasonable. Sign the fuck out.
Yeah, because the thing is right. I'm just gonna reiterate this. Like the reason why we kind of did it this way, right, is not because we wanted to silence anybody. Like the point of a space obviously is to have people come in and have a conversation. Like that's we're not trying to restrict that. What we want to do is we want to cut down the time that we're stuck in here. Because one thing that I know, and especially Alyssa here, man, that
You
happens
talk
when
too
you're in,
much.
yeah, 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 like when you're in these spaces, man, end up being you want to be in here for like 30 minutes, 30, 40 minutes, maybe like an hour at most, right? And you end up being in here for like, you know what I'm saying?
Like,
And
look, we've been in here for hour and 20 minutes, man. Hour and 25 minutes. And we literally said 30 minutes.
you know, and a lot of times the reason why that happens is because like people come in and just like any other conversation, you start getting heated, the conversation gets heated, people start getting annoyed and everybody starts arguing and it's always a back and forth thing and that part of it always takes up a lot of time and that's what we were trying to cut down on pretty much.
Yo,
um
do you see the you see the picture I sent you?
uh
My thumbnail? I sent it to you on text.
nah, let me take a look at that. Oh yeah. Not Phil Spencer though. Towel, bro.
Yeah, we're not trying to silence anybody. We just, point blank, period. You want to know what it is? It's just like I said, me and Ken are very passionate. We want to be in the game, and we don't really like we don't do it for followers. If it's for a happen chance, like we get followers, we be like, oh shit, I didn't even know I had this. You trust and believe, yo. A lot of the time, man, we don't be paying attention to that shit.
Yeah.
We really don't. It ain't even that deep. We really about this. You know what I mean? Like I said, like Ken said, he has a fucking gaming PC, and he has a Switch, and he has a Wii U, and he has a fucking PS5 and a fucking Xbox Series X, and he has fucking VR 1 and 2. Debate your fucking mom.
I don't even really like saying that shit, man, to be honest with you, because I don't like it when other people do it, man. Whenever like when the first thing that people say is like, "Oh, I have all consoles." Like to me that's annoying. And the reason why it's annoying is because it comes off, right, as somebody trying to act like they're neutral when they're really not. Oh, I play all games everywhere. I'm just a gamer, I don't this is another thing. I'm console agnostic.
I bet I ever hear that shit.
Yo, I'm
Foolishness.
like console agnostic. I'm like, bitch, shut up, man. Just stop. Like if you play on one console more than the other console, then clearly there is a
You have a
reason why
bias.
you have a bias already as it is. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with somebody having a bias for something. It's just built into everybody. Everybody has a bias for, you know what I mean? Yeah, but to make it seem like, your bias is a fact or, you know, whatever, to try to make it seem like you don't have a bias or that you're neutral, that's what's kind of annoying. You know what I mean? I'm like, no, dude, just own it, bro. Like if you're biased towards something, dude, if you hate PlayStation, I love PlayStation, man. It's my favorite console, But if you hate it, what am I gonna say?
I gotta give it to those Xbox, man. I gotta give it to them, yo. They say that shit with their chest all the time. I don't care how frivolous that shit sound. They do. They say it. They be like, yo. People ask them why you have a PC. I mean, why don't you have a PC? I don't like it. I like my Xbox. I like the controller. Well, you could do. I like my Xbox. I'm like, all right, you got it. I'm trying to tell you, it'd be these fucking Nintendo people, yo, that run around and talk about some. I like all these other consoles, but you so quick to talk about. I just wish that Sony did this. I just wish that Sony did that all the time, unprovoked. You just wake up in the morning and talk about, I wish Sony did this. I wish you shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? But we all can't have what we want. You know what I mean? I can't shut you down. Sony needs to buy some Japanese developers and stuff like that. What about Nintendo and Microsoft? Why you always talk about Sony all the time, about what they should do? Why don't you just appreciate what the fuck they got still going on right then? That's how I know that shit is fraudulent, huh?
Honest, man, I actually respect people more when they kind of like pick something. You know what I mean? It's the people who try to, like, you know, make it seem like, oh, you know, I have all, that's why that specific, that's like a trigger word for me, man. I have all consoles. Like, that's why I don't like that shit, man. And that's why I don't say it, because it's annoying to me, you know. But it's those type of individuals that I don't respect as much, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it seem like they don't have a bias, and they say some, and this is the thing that gets me, is that they always say some stupid shit, right? Always. Like, it's always the people who say that say the dumbest shit, man. Right? And then they never have anything to back that shit up. And then the next thing that they say, just to follow it up, right, is, oh, I have all consoles. I'm not a fucking fan. I'm just a gamer. Like, okay, bro.
Yo, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you have to have an archive of receipts, you ain't doing something right. You should not be trying to prove to anybody about your gamerdom. Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense for you to sit there and try to prove to people that you're anything, really. Picture that shit with a fucking Kodak. Talk about some, I need to show you my platinums. For what? That's how you know that's how you know that's you the equivalent of the person that's racist and be like, I got black friends. If you gotta say that shit, yo, there's a problem.
Yo, all the time, bro. I really wanted to hear what that guy had to say, man. That's why I DM'd him, because I didn't want it to come across like we were trying to, like, silence anybody. Like, that's not what we're trying to do. We're not about that shit. You know what I mean? It's just time. You know, we like the game and stuff, man. Some of these people stay in spaces for like 7 hours, dude. I'm like, how do you do that?
I did that shit. I did a 5-hour stream. That was a no-go. Let me ask you a question while I'm in here, right? Baked beans, yo. Do you string out the fucking juices, or you just pour that shit in there?
It depends on what I'm doing with it. Like, if I'm gonna cook it with rice, like,
you're breaking up. Say again.
I said it depends on what I'm gonna do with it. Like, if I'm cooking it with rice or something, I'll keep the juice in it, or at least some of it.
All right, baked beans.
Yeah. I usually do keep just a little bit in there, you know, because sometimes it could get a little dry. So, but yeah, I don't know.
I realized that was the ingredient for Wendy's chilies, yo. They have baked beans in there instead of just kidney beans. I was like, oh shit.
That's what's up, man.
That's why it tastes like that. I was like, so now I'm trying to figure out, am I crazy for draining the fucking juices?
Nah, man. I mean, usually it's kind of like tuna, man. Like, if you drain too much of it, it'll be a little too dry, man. You know what I'm saying? Just leave just a little bit in there so it won't be so fucking dry. Like, you won't be chewing on sand. You know what I mean?
Well, it's going into a pot of fucking, you know, beef broth and shit like that. So.
Oh yeah, I would drain it a little bit. I wouldn't keep all that stuff in there, man.
Somebody.
But. We were just trying to hold off for this guy. I don't think he's coming back.
I don't think he probably is the one. He probably is the one that unfollowed me. I don't give a fuck. You that sensitive?
Yeah, that's whatever.
You gonna cry?
Maybe
you gonna cry?
Maybe next time we have a space. So I'm just gonna go ahead and end it here, man. I'm glad you guys came through, man. I will say this. This space was its own thing, man. I'm actually going to make another video talking about all the, like, the little points that I touched on with Phil Spencer's interview and stuff is going to be its own thing, and I'm going to post and do all that shit. Have it probably ready by tomorrow. But other than that, man, I'm done. And is there anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
No, I think I've said enough. I think I've rocked the boat too much.
All right, man, I'm getting out of here. I'm about to go play some fucking games. All right, guys.
Peace.
Peace out.